Hello, everybody. It's time for our weekly NEC Women's Basketball GEICO Google Hangout. I'm hanging out here down in Somerset, New Jersey. My guest is up in Brooklyn Heights, New York. We'll hear from her in just a moment. First, please let me remind you that this Google Hangout is brought to you by GEICO. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com. Now, it's time to hang out with St. Francis Brooklyn forward Jaymee Veney. Jamie's a senior forward for the Terriers. They've clinched a spot in the NEC Tournament. We'll talk about that and a number of things over the next few minutes as I am privileged enough to hang out with Jaymee Veney. Jaymee, welcome. Thanks for your time today. How's it going up there in Brooklyn Heights?
You know, it's really cold, but other than that, it's fantastic. Just finished practice.
Well, it's not much warmer down here in Jersey. I have to start by asking you, last Saturday, you scored a career-high 25 points. Then on Monday night, you went for 31. So my question is, what's next? What are we looking at this Saturday against Bryant? Maybe 35 points? Maybe 40? What do you think?
Honestly, it's not really about, my points. I was just trying to do what I had to do to win, and it seemed like I could get the ball down there and score, I guess kind of at will. So, with good passes for my teammates, that's just what I did, and it ended up that I had 31 points.
It wasn't all good passing, though, right? I'm sure you had to make a couple nice moves at some point.
I mean, yeah, I have my little go-to turnaround move that, dropped a couple of times, but yeah, I was having fun trying to win.
And you mentioned having fun trying to win. You went 1-1 last week, close loss to FDU on Monday night, but 1-1 was enough for the Terriers to clinch a spot in the postseason, currently in 5th place in the NEC standings, and guaranteed to go back to the 8-team NEC tournament. Of course, the winner of the NEC tournament goes to the big dance.
Mm-hmm.
This is your 3rd consecutive trip to the NEC tournament. How does it feel? How does it feel to know that you and the Terriers have another chance to claim NEC supremacy this March?
It feels great. I mean, the first 2 years we lost in the first round. I wouldn't say exactly the prettiest losses, and with the majority of the team being seniors, it's just like, we have a fire under our butts, and, this year is the last chance that we have, to go to the big dance or even get past the first round.
Now, you mentioned the majority of the group are seniors, a veteran team, and really there has been a huge progression. I almost refer to it as a renaissance in Brooklyn Heights over the past 4 years while this senior class has been at St. Francis. The 2 years prior to your class's arrival, St. Francis won a combined 1 game in Northeast Conference play. Program had fallen on some tough times. You come in as a freshman, growing pains, a losing season, you don't make the conference tournament. But now you're going to the conference tournament for the 3rd year in a row. You've hit double-digit wins 3 straight years. The question is, how did you guys do it? How did the Terriers, led by your senior class, turn the program around?
Our freshman year was, I guess you could say, like a learning experience, and we were all young. There were, 8 seniors or 8 freshmen at the time. We didn't really know the system, how to play together, things like that. The second year, especially with, new head coach John Thurston, he came in and he was like, enough with, the things that are going on. He set a whole new, line of rules. He set up a different method of practice, which we obviously liked a lot better because it helped us win more games. And then obviously with being with the senior class now for so long, we developed a way to play together. We're friends on and off the court. So that bond that we have with each other and the bond that we have with our coach is ultimately what led us to be more successful on the road.
Now, I know it's a veteran group, and you mentioned a little cohesion there because you've had the opportunity to play together now for 3+ years. This team is a close-knit group. We know that. How else would you describe your team? If you needed describe the Terriers in a few words for us. What do you want people to think about St. Francis Brooklyn women's basketball?
I think the one word that would describe us and that comes up everything is tenacious. We get after it. We'll get on each other. We'll congratulate each other, but we'll also be quick to say, look, you need to pass, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like look for kickouts and stuff like that. We get after it on the defensive end, the offensive end. If it's not working out for someone, there's someone next to you that's like, it's okay, keep shooting, keep rebounding or try to drive, this way. So we're just very tenacious and very helpful when it comes to our group.
So the tenacious Terriers. Now, you personally, do you see yourself as one of the more tenacious players on the floor? Do you ever have to get after anybody else and kind of remind them to maybe try a little harder? Or
I'll be honest, I do a lot of yelling. I think I might be one of the harsher individuals on the team, but it all comes from good nature. And the good thing is, the younger kids, they don't really take it to heart. They just realize that that I'm trying to get on them, because after we leave, it's all on them.
Yeah, it's all in love anyway, right?
Yes.
Now, you've been at St. Francis for 3+ years. First, what would you say is your most proud moment as a St. Francis Terrier? Your most proud accomplishment?
Oh, gosh. I guess you could say the very first one would be when I made the all-rookie team my freshman year. Because coming out of high school, I really never expected to be the player that I am now. I never expected to really have 1,000 points or, to get, player of the week or anything like that. I was just kind of coming in, being the silent, average player that I was. And then, so I guess you could say that, the whole 4 years have been a proud moment for me, because I've developed into something that I never thought I was going to be.
Well, how did you develop, Jaymee? I mean, I know you're modest and humble, but you say you were kind of like an average player coming out of high school. Well, what happened between high school and college? You're a 1,000-point scorer. I mean, you're a threat to put up a double-double every night you step on the floor. What happened to you? Did you change your diet? Did you? I don't know. What did you find the fountain of youth? I don't know. What was the transformation?
Honestly, my first year when I went back home for the summer, a lot of people were just like, "Oh, so you're staying home? You're not going to go back to St. Francis?" And I came back, and Coach T took me under his wing, and I started doing, summer workouts, extra postseason workouts, and extra conditioning. I lost a good, 20 pounds and then gained more muscle. So Coach T working with me and giving me counter moves in different ways, and, like working on my footwork and ball handling and drive, all that stuff ultimately adds up to everything that I've done so far.
Now, you mentioned you dropped some weight and you got in better physical condition. Is conditioning something that Coach Thurston is big on? Does he stress conditioning, and is that something that you guys do often over there in Brooklyn Heights?
Yes. He definitely stresses conditioning, because at the very least, you can wear other teams out when it comes down to the last 5 minutes of the game. And that's our biggest thing, playing the game in portions. The first 5 minutes of the first half, and the last 5 minutes of the second half. So, the better condition, obviously, the better stamina you'll have at the end of the game when it's, necessary to be, physical and run the floor and things like that.
And do you find it has helped? Do you feel like you still have your legs under you in those last 5 minutes of the game? Do you feel that the team, because of this conditioning, is capable of having playing with the same amount of energy in the last 5 minutes of the game that you did in the first 5 minutes of the game?
Definitely. And a lot of us actually play, over, 30 minutes a game, and that's definitely because of, the conditioning. And the good thing is, not only are we conditioned, but we have so many scores to where, it's like if I get tired for a little bit, I know I'm done before I hit a pull-up jumper. If Ailey, gets a little tired, Sarah's coming for the curl three. So, we're all in such conditions where we contribute in the last 5 minutes.
Now, you mentioned going back to Ohio after your freshman year. You're from this little town of Fairborn, Ohio. I'd imagine that Fairborn and Brooklyn Heights, they're a little different probably, a little less traffic out in Fairborn, Ohio, I'd assume. But tell us, what are the differences between your hometown and now your college town, and which one do you like better, or do they both have their great qualities?
They definitely both have their, their good qualities. Growing up, I worked on a horse farm and actually worked at a rodeo, believe it or not.
Wow.
I actually miss, like the horses and the, all the land and the prairies and things like that. But I'm definitely a Brooklyn girl. I walk fast and I talk fast, and I'm just like walking around in the street, not looking at cars. Brooklyn Heights is a special type of pretty. The Manhattan skyline and the promenade, and just the diversity that you don't get in Fairborn. So it definitely has, I think, better perks than my little town.
Now, the next question is, why Brooklyn Heights? Why St. Francis Brooklyn? I know Fairborn, Ohio, there are a ton of colleges out in Ohio. Wright State, I believe, is out in Fairborn. I don't know if they recruited you, or maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But why did you want to play basketball for St. Francis Brooklyn?
Well, of course, they sold me on the New York environment. No, just kidding. I think that the system that I was brought into was a better fit for me. Obviously, I'm an undersized post player, so them being able to work with me and develop me in order for me to play bigger than I actually am or than I look was definitely a plus.
Now, you mentioned post player here. I got a question for you in just a little bit. First, I want to talk about Jaymee Veney, the student, because from what I've read, you're a pretty good student. But I know last April you received a high honor. You were only one of 3 student athletes at St. Francis Brooklyn to join the school's prestigious honor society. I believe I'm pronouncing this correctly. Is it the Duns Scotus or Duns Scotus Honor Society? Can you please explain to us what that is, and how honored are you to be in that select group?
Oh, I'm very honored. The Duns Scotus Honor Society is the highest honor society that you can get at St. Francis College. You have to have at least a 3.8 GPA and be involved in 3 or more extracurricular activities, not including, like, I guess, your sports. So basketball was a plus, but I am also involved in, like the student advisory, athletic advisory committee. I work for the Make a Difference Club and for the special events. I'm just involved in various things, and so is Sarah Benedetti and the other student athlete that's in it. It was definitely, like, I guess you could say, surprising, because I just was kind of walking around and everyone's like, oh, hey, you are smart, you should join Duns Scotus. And I was like, okay. And there's actually like this big induction and this big like honor and like this whole day that's geared around it, and it was actually really amazing to be a part of, and our name is even on the wall.
Now, you had the 3.8, but there's also a service-oriented component to this honor society. And I know you mentioned you're a part of Making a Difference at St. Francis. What's that? What's some of the service that you've done or that other folks in the Honor Society have done?
Well, there's community service involved outside the school. And also every Thanksgiving, we make like this big lunch. And so people who wouldn't otherwise get a Thanksgiving dinner or Thanksgiving lunch or cannot go home for their families, because we have a lot of international students, they can come into our cafeteria, and actually we serve them, the food, tell them Happy Thanksgiving, just kind of like chat and talk to them so they feel like they have that, Thanksgiving community that they wouldn't otherwise have. We also sell like breast cancer bands and stuff like that for breast cancer awareness. We have bake sales to raise monies for children cancer research, and obviously breast cancer and things like that. So that's pretty cool, though. Getting back to the Thanksgiving thing, it's just
you basically put on a Thanksgiving dinner for some of the less fortunate people in the area and just invite them into the college, serve them dinner, and have good company then.
Yeah, it's really nice. And, of course, sometimes we get to sit down and eat with them. And, a lot of them are students that are at St. Francis who are international that can't, go
okay.
Stuff like that.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Now, I told you I had this question about being a post player, and you're pretty modest. You say you're an undersized post player, but you play like a 7-footer, in my opinion. Now, I know the men's team over there has a pretty good post player as well, a guy by the name of Jalen Cannon.
Mm-hmm.
Who's better in the post? Jalen Cannon. Who's got better moves now? Come on. Tell the truth.
Me and Jalen are actually really good friends, so I won't tell him that I said this, but I think I'm better in the post. Because,
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, he's closer to the basket than I am, so for me to have the same amount of points as him, I think I'm better.
And now, I don't want to ask you to make any predictions about the women's basketball tournament because that wouldn't be right. You're going to play in the tournament. So I do have to ask you, though, about the men's side. The Terriers have received a great deal of attention. They're all over the newspapers. They were the preseason favorite for the NEC on the men's side. They clinched the regular season championship. Any predictions on how the Terriers may do in the tournament? What do you think? Are they going to win it all and bring this thing back to Brooklyn?
Of course I think they're going to win it all. But honestly, I think that if they all, just come together and, just kind of take a step back and just play their game and realize that each game is just, it's just one game. It's not a championship. It's just one game at a time until they get there. I think if they go in with that mindset, they're definitely going to bring it back to Brooklyn.
And I'll leave you on this question. What about the women's team now heading into the tournament? You mentioned earlier in our hangout that the last 2 years you had first-round exits from the NEC tournament. Does that make you guys even hungrier to go and get that win, that first win at least this year, and knowing that it's your senior year and the last hurrah? I got to imagine that you and your teammates, your tenacious teammates, are pretty hungry to go after this opportunity.
Honestly, we're extremely excited to have clinched this spot and to be going into postseason play. But, we have to concentrate on the last 2 regular season games for now because obviously we hopefully want to move up, in our standing. And the first game of the NEC tournament is literally just going to be about boys calming ourselves down, getting the jitter out because, our first couple of games of our, non-conference season of our season weren't exactly the greatest. So, for us to continue to play and kind of like ourselves to show that we are the team that people think we are and that we think we are, that is going to drive us.
Well, Jaymee, thank you so much for hanging out today. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. Best of luck in these last 2 regular season games, and then best of luck in the tournament. It's the tenacious Terrier, Jaymee Veney, 1,000-point scorer, Honor Society member, and she's a better post player than Jalen Cannon, at least in my opinion. Well, Jaymee, thanks for joining us. Any last words?
Oh, no. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Jaymee. So for Jaymee Veney up in Brooklyn Heights, I'm Ralph Ventre at NEC headquarters. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's your weekly women's basketball GEICO Google Hangout. Until next time.